Have you ever stopped to truly wonder about the nature of things? It is perhaps the most fundamental question a person can ask. What is all this stuff around us, this reality we find ourselves in? Is it all one single unified thing, a grand cosmic dance? Or is it split into separate, distinct parts, like mind and matter, spirit and flesh, good and evil? For centuries, humanity has explored this profound mystery through two very different lenses. One lens, popular in the East, sees everything as an interconnected whole, a seamless fabric of existence. This is the view we call monism. It suggests that the separation we perceive between ourselves and the world is merely an illusion, a trick of the mind that we have been taught to believe. The other lens, which has deeply shaped the Western world, sees reality as fundamentally divided. This is the view we call dualism. It proposes that there are two distinct and often opposing principles at play in the universe. Think of it as a great cosmic play with two main characters: the mind, which is seen as non-physical and eternal, and the body, which is physical and temporary. This idea of a fundamental split has influenced everything from our religions and philosophies to our scientific endeavors. It creates a world of clear categories of self versus other, of humanity versus nature. But in doing so, it can also create a sense of profound separation, a feeling of being a lonely ego trapped inside a bag of skin. This is not just an abstract philosophical game for scholars to ponder in dusty libraries. The way you answer this question, one or two, deeply influences how you live your life. It shapes your understanding of who you are, your relationship with others, and your connection to the vast universe. If you believe in oneness, you might find a sense of peace and belonging in the world, seeing yourself as a wave in the great ocean of being. You might feel a natural empathy for all living things because, in a way, they are you. The world is not something to be conquered or controlled, but a larger self to be experienced and understood. If, on the other hand, you lean towards a dualistic view, you might see life as a struggle or a journey with a clear purpose. Your goal might be to elevate the spirit over the flesh, to impose order on a chaotic natural world, or to conquer the challenges that stand in your way. This perspective gives a powerful sense of individual agency and has driven incredible advancements in science and technology. It gives us a framework for ethics, a clear line between right and wrong. But it can also lead to a feeling of alienation, a constant battle against the world and even against our own bodies, which are seen as separate and sometimes untrustworthy vessels for our true selves. Let us wander for a moment down the Eastern path, the path of monism. In its simplest form, monism is the idea that all is one. It's not a complicated theory, but a simple, direct experience of reality. In the rich traditions of Hinduism, this oneness is called Brahman. Brahman is the ultimate reality, the single, indivisible consciousness that underlies and pervades everything in the universe. The individual self, what we call the Atman, is seen not as a separate soul, but as a manifestation of Brahman itself. The famous saying, Tat Tvam Asi, means you are that. It is a powerful reminder that your innermost being is identical to the ultimate reality of the entire cosmos. This idea of fundamental unity echoes beautifully in the teachings of Buddhism. The Buddha spoke of interconnectedness, the concept that nothing exists independently on its own. Everything arises in relation to everything else, like a vast, intricate net, where every jewel reflects every other jewel. This view gently dissolves the hard shell of the ego, the persistent feeling of being a separate I. When you realize that you are not an isolated entity, but a part of this interdependent web of life, a sense of compassion naturally arises. You see that harming another is in a very real sense harming a part of yourself. This is not a moral commandment, but a simple, logical conclusion of seeing things as they truly are. Taoism, with its gentle wisdom, offers another flavor of this monistic understanding. The Tao is the natural, spontaneous, and effortless flow of the universe. It is the unnameable, mysterious source from which all things arise and to which all things return. The goal of a Taoist sage is not to conquer nature or impose their will upon it, but to align with the Tao, to move with the current of life rather than struggling against it. This is the art of, or effortless action. It involves trusting the fundamental intelligence of the universe, recognizing that you are not a separate pilot steering your ship, but a part of the river itself, flowing gracefully towards the great ocean of being. This perspective of mystical unity profoundly changes how one experiences the world. The world is no longer a collection of separate objects to be catalogued and used, but a living, breathing organism of which you are an integral part. The distinction between the observer and the observed begins to melt away. The sound of the rain is not something you merely hear, you the hearing of the rain. The warmth of the sun is not just a sensation on your skin, you the feeling of warmth. This is not a loss of self, but an expansion of self to include the entire universe. It is the discovery of your true identity, which was never the small, isolated ego, but the whole magnificent show. Now, let us turn our gaze to the West and explore the powerful idea of dualism. This is the worldview that has, for better or worse, become the default setting for much of modern thought. Dualism is the belief that reality is composed of two fundamental and distinct substances, mind and matter. The mind or spirit is seen as ethereal, conscious, and perhaps immortal. Matter, which includes our physical bodies and the natural world, is seen as unconscious, mechanical, and temporary. This split was famously articulated by the French philosopher René Descartes, who declared, "I think, therefore I am." He located the self firmly in the realm of the mind, separate and distinct from the body, which he viewed as a complex machine. This idea of a mind-body split did not begin with Descartes. It has deep roots in Western thought. In the philosophy of Plato, we find a similar division between the perfect, eternal world of forms and the imperfect, decaying world of physical reality. Our souls, he argued, belong to that higher world of forms and are merely temporarily imprisoned in our physical bodies. This notion was absorbed into early Christian theology, which often presents a stark contrast between the sacred spirit and the sinful flesh. The goal of life, in this view, is to transcend the limitations of the physical body and the material world to achieve salvation for the eternal soul, which is seen as our true identity. The consequences of this dualistic thinking are woven into the very fabric of Western civilization. It has profoundly shaped our ethics, often creating a moral framework based on a struggle between good and evil, spirit and temptation. The body and its natural desires are frequently viewed with suspicion as something to be controlled or overcome by the rational mind or the faithful spirit. This can lead to a sense of inner conflict, a war waged within ourselves. Furthermore, this dualism positions humanity as separate from and superior to the natural world. Nature becomes a resource to be managed, a wilderness to be tamed, or a mechanism to be studied, rather than a larger being of which we are a part. This separation has also been a powerful engine for scientific and medical progress. By viewing the body as a machine, Western medicine has been able to develop incredible techniques for repairing it. Surgeons can replace a heart valve as a mechanic would replace a faulty part in an engine. Science, by treating nature as an objective and separate system, has been able to uncover its laws and harness its power in extraordinary ways. However, this same objective stance can sometimes lead to a cold and impersonal approach, treating a patient as a collection of symptoms rather than a whole person, or viewing an ecosystem purely in terms of its economic value. The split that gives us power can also create a profound sense of disconnection. So, are we forced to choose between these two grand narratives? Must we be either a monist or a dualist, forever seeing the world through one lens? Perhaps not. We can create a simple comparison to see their core differences clearly. Imagine a table. In the monist column, reality is described as one, unified and interconnected. The self is seen as universal, identical with the cosmos, and the goal is liberation through realizing this unity. In the dualist column, reality is two, with a split between mind and matter. The self is individual, a separate ego or soul, and the goal is often salvation or mastery over nature. One emphasizes wholeness, the other separation. But what if these two views are not mutually exclusive opposites, but complementary perspectives, like two sides of the same coin? Many modern thinkers and even entire fields of study are beginning to explore this possibility. The physicist David Bohm, for example, spoke of an implicate order, a deeper, undivided reality from which our everyday, seemingly separate world, the explicate order, unfolds. This sounds remarkably like the Eastern concept of a unified ground of being from which all things arise. In this view, our dualistic experience of the world is real on its own level, but it emerges from a more fundamental, monistic reality. We also see this bridging of ideas in the field of mind-body medicine. For centuries, Western medicine treated the mind and body as separate systems. Now, there is a growing recognition that they are deeply interconnected. Practices like meditation and yoga, which originate from monistic traditions, are being embraced for their proven ability to affect physical health. This is a practical application of a more holistic worldview, acknowledging that our thoughts and emotions are not separate from our physical well-being. The ghost in the machine is being invited back to dance with the machine itself, revealing them to be partners in the same performance. Ultimately, understanding both of these profound worldviews enriches our human experience. Dualism gives us a sense of individual purpose, drives us to achieve, and provides a framework for navigating the practicalities of a complex world. Monism gives us a sense of deep connection, relieves us from the anxiety of being an isolated ego, and fills us with a sense of wonder and belonging. By holding both perspectives, we can learn to act with purpose in the world while remembering that we are not separate from it. We can be both a unique wave and the entire ocean at once. This is not a contradiction but a paradox, and embracing this paradox is the key to a fuller, wiser, and more joyful way of living.